The rain poured hard that night in a quiet neighborhood just outside Chicago. The streets were empty, except for the flashing red and blue lights that painted the walls of a small, rundown house. Inside, FBI agents stood frozen, staring at a wall covered in photographs. Faces of victims. Newspaper clippings. Handwritten notes pinned with precision. At the center of the wall was a photograph of him, the man they'd been chasing for 10 years. And below it, a note written in red marker that said, "You finally found me." Agent Sarah Monroe, who had been on the case since day one, felt her heart skip. The killer wasn't just taunting them, he was inviting them. Then her partner, Agent Tom Harris, spotted something under the desk. A small black USB drive. Sarah plugged it into her laptop, her hands trembling. On the screen, a video began to play. A man wearing a mask stared into the camera. His voice was calm, almost friendly. 10 years, he said. 10 years you chased me. You looked everywhere, except where I wanted you to. But now, you're right where I planned. Suddenly, the video glitched, revealing a timestamp of that exact moment. The video was streaming live. The realization hit them both at once. "He's watching us," Tom whispered. The screen flickered, and the masked man leaned closer. "Let's see how well you run this time." A loud crash echoed from outside. Sarah and Tom rushed to the window. Through the rain, they saw a shadow moving fast through the alley, disappearing into the darkness. And just like that, after 10 long years, the man the FBI had called the Phantom had made contact again. Cut to black. The words appear on screen, 10 years earlier. It all started in the summer of 2010. A small town in Indiana woke up to news that shook everyone. A local teacher, Margaret Lewis, had gone missing. Her car was found abandoned near a bridge, keys still in the ignition. At first, it looked like a runaway case, maybe she left town. But 3 days later, her body was found in a cornfield, perfectly laid out, arms crossed over her chest, a single playing card, the Queen of Hearts, resting on her stomach. The card was clean, dry, untouched by the weather. Whoever left it there wanted it to be found. The local police were stumped. No fingerprints. No DNA. No witnesses. The case went cold fast, until another murder happened 2 months later, this time in Ohio. Same pattern. Same card. That's when the FBI stepped in. Agent Sarah Monroe was just 29 at the time, young, ambitious, and known for her sharp instincts. Her partner, Tom Harris, was a veteran, quiet but relentless. Together, they were assigned to what became known as the card case. Over the next few years, the killings continued. Always a different state. Always the same pattern. Victims who seemed to have nothing in common, except that each one was found with a single playing card placed carefully on them. The media went wild. They called him the Gambler. But to Sarah, it wasn't just a nickname. It was a message. Each card had a meaning. Each move was part of a game that only he understood. And the killer was always one step ahead. In 2012, the FBI thought they had him. A man named David Mercer, a traveling salesman who had been spotted near 3 of the murder sites, was arrested. But when they searched his home, there was no evidence. No cards, no traces, nothing. After 2 weeks, they released him. Then, a few days later, another victim turned up. Same method. Same signature. The killer was mocking them. By 2015, the FBI had over 40 agents working the case. They had analyzed every card, every fiber, every phone record. Still nothing. But Sarah refused to give up. She spent nights going over crime scene photos, convinced there was a connection no one had seen yet. Then one night, she noticed something, a tiny reflection in one of the crime scene photos. A street mirror behind the victim's car showed a faint outline of someone holding a camera. When they enhanced the image, Sarah's heart froze. The man wasn't hiding, he was recording. For years, he had been filming his own crimes. From that moment, the investigation changed. The FBI started tracking security cameras, dash cams, even tourist videos, any chance that their phantom might have appeared by accident. That's when they found him. A blurry figure walking past a hotel camera in Kansas City. The timestamp matched the night of one of the murders. They ran facial recognition. The system gave a name, Daniel Cross. He was 37. No criminal record. Worked as an IT contractor for federal agencies. Clean background. Normal life. Too normal. When the FBI brought him in for questioning, Daniel was calm, polite, cooperative. He even joked with the agents. But Sarah didn't buy it. There was something behind his eyes, a coldness, a silence that made her uneasy. After 2 hours, with no solid evidence, they had to let him go. 2 weeks later, another murder occurred, this time in Texas. Another playing card. Another clean scene. The FBI doubled their efforts. They tracked Daniel's every move, but he was careful, always one step ahead. Then, out of nowhere, the killings stopped. For 5 long years, there were no new victims. The world moved on. The media lost interest. The FBI closed the case. But Sarah never stopped thinking about it. And then, 10 years later, that night in Chicago, his message appeared again. "You finally found me." Only this time, she realized something terrifying. The new message wasn't sent from Daniel Cross's old laptop. It was sent from inside the FBI's own network. Someone on the inside was helping him. Sarah's stomach turned. She looked at Tom. He looked pale, his hands shaking. "It can't be," she whispered. But it was. The IP address traced back to her own partner's account. Tom Harris, the man she had trusted for 10 years. The room went silent. Sarah couldn't breathe. Was it possible? Could the killer have been working beside her all this time? Before she could react, her phone buzzed. A text message. It was from an unknown number. "You should have folded when you had the chance." And then, the power went out. The lights flickered once and died. The room plunged into darkness. Sarah's flashlight clicked on. The window was open. The rain still poured. But Tom Harris was gone. The room was cold and quiet except for the dripping sound from the open window. Rainwater pooled on the floor, soaking into the old carpet. Agent Sarah Monroe stood frozen, her flashlight trembling in her hand. Tom Harris, her partner, her friend, was gone. She ran to the hallway, yelling his name. "Tom! Tom, where are you?" No answer. Only the storm outside replied. She rushed to the parking lot. His car was still there, engine cold. But on the windshield was something small, a playing card. The King of Spades. Sarah's heart dropped. That card had never appeared before in any of the killer's scenes. It was new, deliberate. It meant something. She pulled out her phone and dialed headquarters. "This is Agent Monroe. I need backup at my location. Now." Within minutes, sirens filled the night. FBI units swarmed the area, but there was no sign of Tom. No sign of the man in the mask. It was like they had vanished into thin air. The tech team scanned the USB drive again. This time, they found something buried deep inside, a hidden file labeled The Final Hand. When Sarah opened it, she saw a list. Names, dates, coordinates, and at the very bottom, her own name. Sarah Monroe, October 11th, 2025. Her blood ran cold. That was today's date. The next morning, the Bureau launched a nationwide search for Tom Harris. Every highway camera, every airport, every motel, all monitored. But he was nowhere. Sarah sat alone in the operations room, staring at his file. She remembered their first case together. How he'd comforted her after they lost a lead. How he'd brought her coffee every morning. It all felt fake now. But there was one thing Tom couldn't fake: his habits. He was methodical, predictable. Sarah began retracing his steps. When she checked the security footage from the Bureau garage, something caught her eye. Tom walking out at 8:45 p.m., just minutes before the blackout. He was carrying a small black bag. But when the video zoomed in, Sarah froze. He wasn't alone. A tall figure in a gray hoodie followed him, face hidden, hands gloved. And in one brief frame, the man turned toward the camera. It was Daniel Cross, the killer the FBI thought they'd unmasked 10 years ago. Sarah's stomach twisted. Daniel wasn't dead. He wasn't gone. He was working with Tom. That realization hit her like a wave. Tom had been feeding Daniel information all along: locations, case files, investigation notes. That's how the gambler always stayed one step ahead. Every time they got close, Tom steered them the wrong way. Every piece of false evidence, every anonymous tip, had been him. Sarah clenched her fists. "You played us," she whispered. "You played me." She slammed her hand on the desk, then looked back at the map on the wall. The coordinates from the file, the final hand. They formed a pattern. Each location was one of the old murder sites. But there was a new coordinate at the end, deep in the Colorado mountains. And the date next to it, October 11th, 2025. That's today. She grabbed her jacket and badge. "I'm going," she told the director. "Monroe, no," he said. "We don't have confirmation." But she was already gone. The drive through the Colorado wilderness was long and quiet. The sun had set, leaving the mountains drenched in mist. Her GPS beeped as she neared the last coordinate, a small abandoned cabin surrounded by pine trees. She parked and stepped out, gun drawn. The door was half open, creaking in the wind. Inside, the smell of dust and decay filled the air. There were photographs pinned to the wall, her photographs. Pictures of her at work, at home, even walking her dog. He'd been watching her for years. Suddenly, a voice echoed behind her. "You really shouldn't have come alone, Sarah." She turned sharply. Tom Harris stood in the doorway, wearing the same dark coat he'd worn the night before. His eyes were hollow, but calm. "Where's Daniel?" she demanded. He smiled faintly. "Closer than you think." Then another voice came from the shadows. "We were never two people, Agent Monroe." Sarah froze. Out of the darkness stepped Daniel Cross, only, as the light hit his face, she realized the truth. It was Tom. There was no Daniel Cross. There never had been. Tom had created him, an alias, a mask. A false identity he used to commit murders while working inside the FBI. For 10 years, he'd fooled everyone, his team, the bureau, the country. Sarah's mind raced. You killed them all. And you used the bureau to cover it." He tilted his head, smiling slightly. "I didn't cover it. I orchestrated it. You were my perfect alibi." Her hands trembled as she raised her gun. "Why, Tom? Why all this?" His smile faded. "Because justice is a game, and you can't win if you don't cheat." A faint click echoed behind her. Sarah turned. Too late. Another masked figure emerged from the shadows, holding a gun to her head. Tom leaned in close. "You didn't think I'd come here alone, did you?" The masked man handed Tom a small remote. Tom pressed a button. The old cabin lights flickered, revealing something horrifying, dozens of photographs of FBI agents, each with a red X across their faces. "The bureau will burn," Tom whispered. "And it starts with you." Sarah took a deep breath, her mind racing. Then, in a split second, she made her move, kicking backward, slamming the masked man against the wall. The gun went off, shattering glass. Tom lunged at her, grabbing for her weapon. They struggled violently, fists, elbows, chaos. Finally, Sarah managed to grab her gun again and fired. The bullet hit Tom in the shoulder. He fell back, clutching his arm. "You'll never stop it," he hissed. "It's already begun." He reached into his coat pocket and threw something small and metal onto the floor. Sarah realized too late. It was a detonator. The cabin shook. Explosions ripped through the walls. Fire and smoke erupted around her. Sarah dove through the window just as the cabin exploded behind her, flames lighting up the night sky. She hit the ground hard, coughing, dirt in her lungs. When she looked back, the cabin was gone, just fire and rubble. But Tom's body was nowhere to be seen. 2 weeks later, back at FBI headquarters, the investigation into Tom Harris's betrayal became national news. Every file, every piece of evidence was being re-examined. But Sarah couldn't rest. She knew Tom was still alive. One morning, she received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single playing card, the ace of spades. And on the back, written in red ink, "Game's not over." Sarah stared at it, her hand shaking. She looked out the window at the city below, knowing that somewhere, he was watching her. The chase wasn't over. It had only just begun.